What separates a trade dispute from a strategic confrontation? Sometimes just one announcement. In a move that caught global markets off guard, China announced a steep increase in tariffs on U.S. goods, raising them to a staggering 84%. It was a sharp escalation, following failed negotiations and unmet ultimatums. What many considered a stagnant trade war has now entered its most aggressive phase yet. On one side, the United States plays hardball. On the other, Beijing fires back with precision. These aren't just symbolic moves. We're witnessing two global superpowers exchange blows, not with missiles, but with tariffs, diplomatic threats, and economic pressure. Today on World Radar, we dive deep into the details of this economic standoff, examining why China is pushing back, what this tariff war means for global trade, and whether we're on the brink of a new kind of global conflict. The radar is active, and the signals are anything but reassuring. The trade conflict between the United States and China didn't start yesterday. It has evolved over years, a saga of temporary deals, sudden collapses, and constant threats. But the last few days marked a dramatic shift. It began with an ultimatum. The U.S. government gave China a hard deadline: back down on current tariffs or face new penalties. The clock ran out, and Beijing responded by raising tariffs on American goods from 34% to 84%. This jump is not just a policy adjustment, it's a statement. It signals a readiness to bear the cost of resistance. A product that once sold for $100 in China now effectively costs over $180 after taxes, a drastic barrier to U.S. exports. Meanwhile, the United States also ramped up pressure, raising its own tariffs to 104% on key Chinese products, including semiconductors, industrial machinery, and electronic components. The goal? Make imported goods less attractive and push consumers toward domestic options. But in practice, the impact is far more complicated. Prices rise, businesses suffer, supply chains shake. China's Ministry of Finance framed its decision within the bounds of domestic and international law. But the message was clear: America's policies are reckless. We won't be bullied. This isn't just a trade dispute. It's an open test of wills, and the world is watching. When the two largest economies in the world collide, everyone else feels the shockwaves. Tariffs at this scale have immediate effects. Consumers pay more. Importers pull back. Businesses scramble to adapt. U.S. companies like Apple, Ford, Tesla, and General Motors saw their stock prices drop sharply. Apple, which depends heavily on Chinese manufacturing, has already lost over 30% of its market value this year. On Wall Street, futures for the Dow Jones plunged more than 700 points following China's announcement. In China, stock markets also took a hit. Meanwhile, the U.S. dollar soared, surpassing 6 BRL in Brazil, reflecting market anxiety. Brazilian exporters are feeling it too. Companies like Vale, which rely on the Chinese market, saw their share prices drop. Worldwide, nations are reevaluating trade policies, alliances, and dependencies. Canada, for example, has announced plans to impose 25% tariffs on U.S.-made vehicles, a retaliatory move that signals just how far this tension is spreading. And behind the numbers lies a deeper threat: the breakdown of global supply chains. In today's world, where products are assembled across continents, any disruption in trade has domino effects: delays, shortages, inflation, and uncertainty. What started as an economic dispute now threatens the very architecture of global trade. And in this high-stakes game, no one walks away unscathed. Beneath the surface of tariffs and public statements lies a much broader struggle, one that's more about power than commerce. When the United States uses trade sanctions to pressure China, it's asserting dominance, attempting to dictate terms, not just protect local industries. And China is responding not just with resistance, but with defiance. By raising tariffs and rejecting negotiation deadlines, Beijing is declaring itself an equal, not a subordinate. Former President Donald Trump, during his term, approached this tension like a game of high-stakes poker. At one point, he said he was waiting for a call from China to start negotiations, a call that never came. As promised, the White House followed through, raising tariffs to 104%. But this also cornered the U.S. politically. Public threats demand public action, and now both sides are locked in a cycle of escalation. China released an official legal document condemning the U.S. measures as violations of international law and trade norms. They also placed 11 American companies on a blacklist, potentially banning them from doing business in China. At the same time, Beijing summoned executives from Tesla and 20 other U.S. companies, warning them to act responsibly and help stabilize global supply chains. Behind closed doors, pressure is mounting. This battle goes far beyond economics. It's a strategic test, and every move is a message. The conflict has reached global dimensions. China formally lodged a complaint with the World Trade Organization, WTO, accusing the United States of destabilizing the global market and violating multilateral trade principles. This is more than legal maneuvering, it's diplomacy. Beijing is working to rally support and isolate Washington politically. Countries like Germany, Brazil, and Mexico are watching closely. Any serious disruption between the U.S. and China creates ripple effects, delayed deliveries, canceled orders, and shifting alliances. The European Union is especially cautious. It fears being pulled into a binary world, forced to choose between Beijing and Washington. European leaders prefer a multipolar approach, maintaining trade ties with both. In the global south, currencies are under pressure. In Brazil, the real has weakened significantly, sparking inflation fears and raising the cost of imports. Meanwhile, supply chains are fracturing. Smaller nations are scrambling to sign bilateral trade deals and avoid being collateral damage in a war they didn't start. The global trade system, once held together by rules and predictability, is now unraveling under the weight of economic nationalism and tit-for-tat retaliation. In this new era, strength speaks louder than treaties, and everyone is adjusting. China's decision to raise tariffs to 84% wasn't just economic. It was strategic, a clear message that it won't be pressured into submission, even by the world's largest economy. The United States, on the other hand, remains firm in its belief that economic leverage will force a deal. But each move, each sanction, only deepens the standoff. This is no longer a traditional trade war. It's a global power contest. A new kind of Cold War, fought not with troops, but with policies, corporations, and tariffs. And while the two titans clash, the rest of the world braces for impact. The global economic order is shifting. Alliances are being tested. Markets are trembling. And behind the headlines, something deeper is unfolding. A fight for who gets to define the rules of tomorrow's world. At World Radar, we scan the truth behind the headlines, and the warning signs are loud and clear. Subscribe, activate your radar, and stay informed. Because when the giants move, the whole world feels it. We'll see you in the next alert.